Please welcome to the stage our esteemed panelists. Miranda Watson from Jones Lang LaSalle Incorporated. Steve Perry from California Teachers Association. Amanda Young from ConnectWise. And today's moderator, Senior Director of Industry and Customer Marketing at Cvent, Julie Haddix.
Hello, everyone. How are you today? Good. It's been a long one. And for everyone in the room, I know we're the last session of the day before another happy hour. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming. Hope that you have really enjoyed all of the content so far. We're going to take it a little casual today and really just try to have a conversation and make sure we save some time at the end for questions from the audience. So for those of you here in the room, please feel free to put some questions into the mobile app. For our virtual audience, please do also add some questions. And before we really introduce our panel, I'm going to actually start us off with a poll. So if everybody could either take out your phone or those of my friends online navigate to the poll, I'd love to hear from all of you. What is your top priority right now? Likely there's a multiple choice that could be put on this one, but choose that top priority. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask each of my panelists to tell us what are some of their priorities at the moment while giving you a quick overview of their programs for some context setting. So Miranda, let's start with you.
Hi, my name is Miranda Watson. I am the Global Operations Manager for Jones Lang LaSalle's event team. And one of our biggest, challenges and priorities for our team is globalization. We just took our team global last year, and so we're standardizing a lot of our workflow and our processes, so that's been a bit of a lift. But on top of that, we are also looking at ways to accurately and precisely measure ROI. Our global executive board wants to see where that money is going for all the events that we spend money on.
Awesome. All right. So we'll come back to some of that here in a little bit. But Amanda, why don't you give just a quick overview of your program and some of your priorities?
Yep, Amanda Young, Senior Director of Events for ConnectWise. We are an events team based in the marketing department, and we try to adhere to a center of excellence model. So our priorities is similar: data intelligence, making decisions based on data, operational standardization, everything from pulling that data intelligence, how we're producing the events, how we're procuring all of our vendors across the events, and ultimately lining up to the company's goals and objectives. So really getting the team organized into that model is our main priority. And you kind of move out of the segmented events teams that are in different places, and then you have this one team where you can look at everything across a platform. It takes a little bit of a lift, but that's my main priority right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. And Steve, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm Steve Perry. Good afternoon. I'm the Assistant Executive Director for the California Teachers Association. The California Teachers Association is the union for the public school teachers in California. We have about 310,000 members throughout California, anywhere from pre-K through community college. And some of our priorities are really around professional development and leadership development. We try to really engage our members, get them involved in the organization. So many of them serve as volunteers within the organization. And so a lot of the trainings and the events and the things that we do to bring them together are around, one, recognizing their efforts and their contributions to their organization, but also trying to get them properly trained with the tools and the information and the knowledge that they need. Some of those challenges are around doing it and on their schedule, meet them where they are in terms of where they are in their skill set, in their time that they have to contribute, and also in their, knowing that they're supported by their professional organization as well.
Wonderful, thank you. So as you can hear, we have 3 very widely different programs that support a variety of different industries. We wanted to make sure today that we bring a broad perspective and bring in both the association lens and a corporate lens to really bringing a events program that aligns with your corporate objectives. Real quick background on myself in case for some context. As the Senior Director of Solutions and Customer Marketing, I work very closely with our meetings and events team to help bring Cvent Connect content strategy to life, as well as some of our other programs. So might contribute as well for some of our insights to today's conversation. All right, so hopefully by now you guys have all had a chance to take that poll. Curious to see from those results if we can get that display shown, or we might be able to all just look at the results in the app. There we go. I think we can see that coming here. So it looks like, oh, I love this. For the top result, attendee engagement and staying within budget are top 2, taking on more events and field events. So Miranda, I might lean to you on that one. You've got some good insights.
Well, it's hard to stay within budget and have good attendee engagement.
And then have more events.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a total.
We see these conflicts
we're
coming.
Conflict of interest with our results.
Surprising, not as many people focused on restructuring the team right now, but a handful. So interesting. Okay, very helpful. We'll absolutely keep all this in mind. Thank you, everybody. So first question that we kind of wanted to talk about is, what are the results that you share with your C-suite or an association lens, your board, as you are thinking about your programs? I know this is a top conversation that you all are really focused on. So Miranda, you specifically addressed in your opening. So what are those results that they care about?
Yeah, like I said, our global executive board has put a highlight on our spend for events. Our firm spends about $40 million a year globally on events. So they're looking at that spend and wanting to know, okay, well, what are we getting back? So one of the things that we've been tasked with as a marketing team, which is where the events team is embedded, is identifying methodology to measure that ROI, which has been an enormous challenge. On top of globalization, we also have a lot of siloed business lines within JLL. JLL is a huge commercial real estate firm, and we're global. We have several business lines, and not everybody is on a CRM. Not everyone is measuring any kind of revenue, so it's been quite a challenge. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, we'd love to share, we're getting back $400 million back from these events. But right now, we haven't pinpointed a very precise way of measuring that and getting it to our executives in a super valuable way.
So you just said something that I'm curious. Are you then also aligning with the larger marketing organization for them to come up with more of a framework for reporting in general?
Sure, yeah. In fact, we have a task force that we have put together, which can be good and bad. Everybody that's on the task force has a day job. And, we have a RevOps team, we have our marketing and campaigns team on it, we have our data analysis team, marketing operations, but everyone has stuff to do, and it's not a priority, unfortunately, to work on this really huge project. So it's been quite a challenge.
Can imagine. Amanda, let's shift to you for a little bit. What results are you currently trying to share with your upper management?
Yeah, so, again, some of it's just the boring stuff, or depends on how you look at it, but we shifted more from experience metrics when it came to the C-suite. Like, they would share metrics on, like, what are you eating? Who went to the party? Like, there was some of these more experience metrics. Your C-suite shouldn't be worried about the experience metrics. We're trying to shift it to more data-driven metrics. What is the pipeline going into the event? Who's coming to the event? How's it matching up to your performance year over year? We're really trying to shift to those numbers and stay away from the fun stuff, which I know is so counterintuitive, right? Because we all want to have fun with our events. So, again, keeping it really high level, consistent, and telling the story about the dollars and cents is what I focus on with the C-suite. And we had an example recently where we had some growth metrics that we wanted to hit. We weren't hitting the growth metrics, but we weren't stunting growth. And when we were looking at the numbers we were reporting into C-suite, we kept just reporting against the numbers we weren't growing to. But then when we were able to pause and look at it, we were able to say, well, what we're finding is we're staying even year over year, but we're not growing. So make a decision with that. Don't make a decision based on, we're just not growing. Right, so always make sure that when you're with your C-suite, you can tell those stories. You can always match those metrics up year over year. And anytime someone goes down a rabbit hole of like what the party is and I don't know, like the crazy stuff. What's the color of the lighting on the stage? Try to steer them away as quick as possible. And it's not easy. We fight that fight every day, but really stay focused on the dollars and cents of it all.
Love that. And Steve, from an association lens, the metrics are maybe a little different, but also just as important, because for you, as we've been talking, events are such a lifeblood of your organization. So what are those key metrics that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, similar to those metrics too, that the dollars and the cost of the events are important to them, but they really also want to know what are the impact that it's having on individuals. So those are tougher to quantify in dollar terms, other than trying to show results in terms of just the frequency of those that are coming to the events and what's the end result of their progression in the association from a leadership structure. So they like to see the life cycle or the leadership cycle of individuals who come to these events. Are they progressing in their leadership journey along their support and their volunteerism in the association? So they're interested in the dollar and cents, the hard metrics for sure, but they also want to be able to make sure that the folks that are coming to these events are progressing, learning, getting the training and the support that they need. And so we're able to show them over a period of time the progression of those that are coming to those events. And that's something that's useful for them. Another thing that they like to see, because they're all elected, so it's a very democratic organization in terms of the leaders are elected by the body and everything too. So there's a big governance factor in this. And so there is policy and all of that. And so there's a lot of structure within the organization. So that's another thing they just like to see is, hey, we've got an organizational handbook, we've got structure, we've got policies, we have our governance set up. Are we complying? Are we in compliance with our bylaws and with our organizational rules that we have? And those are some of the kind of the non-quantifiable things that we're able to show them too as a result of the events.
Love that. And I loved when we were all preparing for this conversation, how similar some of the ultimate metrics are between the association world and the corporate world, as its focus is on just that impact that your events are having, whether it's on a customer, whether it's on an employee, whether it's on an association member, and that the metrics and the outcomes are so much more than attendance numbers, than the colors in the room, really taking it beyond butts and seats and satisfaction scores to show that larger, broader impact. All right, so shifting gears, we're going to do a hard shift here and go a little bit more internal to how do you structure or manage your team? You guys each said a little bit about your teams in the introductions, but Steve, tell us a little bit more about how events come to life, the event organizations come to life for you guys.
How we structure and manage the team. Yeah. So I'll give a shout out. Hopefully they're watching back home in Burlingame. I'll give a shout out to our team, the Conference Coordination Center at California Teachers Associations. Hopefully they're watching back home. They said that they were going to try to tune in here. So I got to make sure that I represent them well here in terms of how we structure the team. But we have a small team that we divide up our events across our team. And so there's a lead for each of our events, and then those that aren't a lead in a particular events, they support the other one. So we really have really strong leads in those events, but then it's great because we also have those that support those events or also have strong leadership and experience too. So, and then we also just give a lot of just authority and delegation for them to participate on the planning of the events. So what we found, being an association, everything is committee driven. There's a committee for everything. And what we found was important that those that are working on the program and the event itself be a key member and a participating member of the committee itself. And so getting that participation, the seat at the table, if you will, on the planning and the development and the organization of all the events has really, I think, helped the department be a part of the event and led to successful events.
I like that. Great. All right, so Miranda,
Yeah.
this is where I want to go to some of those field small events, getting more events under management, because you guys have been doing some
Yeah, it's been
great
really,
stuff there.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. This year we had the opportunity to beta test the Essentials platform, and we have several hundred field marketers planning and executing events throughout the globe. So it's been instrumental in helping out, a small team of people that have been beta testing. And Ashley Phelps, shout out to her. She has just been amazing, very open to receiving feedback. We were part of those 5,500 or whatever it was bits of feedback. So it's been very useful, and it has taken a lot of the heavy lift when it comes to planning those events for those field marketers. Because again, it is part of their role, but it's not the only part of their role. So to have a tool like that in place has been really helpful.
So how are you structuring how those field marketers interact with your central team and how you're making the decision of what they can retain versus what you guys are managing centrally?
Sure. So we have a tiering system when it comes to our events, and our planners that are on the global events team, we only have about a dozen people that execute those tier 1 events. So the tier 2 and tier 3 events are the more self-service events. And so we do have some online resources that they go to. Our program starts with Cvent. We have a meeting registration form, so they have to enter in their event registration details, and then that directs them into, here are more resources, here's where you can go to if you need help setting up a registration site, or if you need help with, sourcing a venue, that sort of thing. So we do have resources in place, but I'm really excited about the access portal because I think that's going to be a game changer for us. Like, it's all going to be in one place, which is going to be huge.
So what Ashley showed on stage, or Jackie, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was over there. Yeah.
So she listened to your feedback.
Yes.
Good. Okay, Amanda, how about you guys? I'd love for you to also, we were talking to the hall about how demand gen and other groups in marketing play too, so talk about your team structure, but also the structure within your marketing organization.
Yeah, so when I came into this role about 1.5 years ago, I was challenged with, again, like moving an events team into a marketing COE. And what we did was we took 3 teams and we combined it into one department. So those 3 teams are still focused on 3 different types of events, but now we're under one market where we're really able to look at how are you planning, how are we measuring, the operations of it all, like how is that being managed, so we can have some consistencies across the 3 departments. And it's broken down into field events, trade shows, road shows. We have our proprietary conferences, and then we have a program called peer groups, which it's a high quantity of events of people cycling through these peer groups all year round, so that it requires its own work stream. So we have that, and what we've done now is, so we do have our planners across my team that are planning in all of them, but then when we have to spin up our larger events, we take a work stream approach, and that was the first thing I looked at, was making sure that my team is focused on production and experience and making sure that we're executing on brand standards, we're pulling the data in that we need to measure, getting all those components down pat, but not being the person responsible for recruitment and demand gen, not being the person who's responsible for content, letting those experts and those SMEs manage those work streams so that we can focus on production. And I think that's really important. If you put the stress on a planner of managing the budget, managing the logistics, taking it on the inquiries, but then also saying you have to get all the butts in seats, you're gonna get the wrong butts in seats. So we really took a look at that, and I've tried to do a lot of work to take that off the plate of the team. And we have had some wins. We did have a big conference last week. We have a hosted program that we do. I think a lot of people do, partner programs or incentive programs with their customers. We call ours the hosted guest. By taking recruitment off the planner and shifting it to our demand generation team, or I think you guys have a different term for it, by taking that off the plate, we were able to have less attendees in the room with I think it was double or a third of the value of pipeline. So we were previously at 5 million, but in that room we had less people and we were at 9 million in pipeline because the right person looking at it. So you may think having an event resource that gets butts and seats and plans the events is what's best for the company because it saves you money. It doesn't. I mean, look at that. That was almost $3 million that we were able to bring into the room by having the right person look at the data. You know, so it's like iceberg money, right? Like on the top you might save a little bit, but underneath it's just gonna crash the ship. So, again, we take a hard look at that and just make sure we have the right SMEs and the work streams across all of our events.
It's huge. Love that. Okay, so shifting gears again on our question, we heard from our audience their priorities for the year, a lot around staying in budget and attendee engagement. Curious from each of you, what has been your biggest challenge in the last year? Amanda, let's start with you.
Well, what's really funny is that I have had my biggest win for the last year has been like ChatGPT. I mean, we're all talking about it, right? So, I mean, it's fine. It's like 40-year-old women all use Botox. We're all using ChatGPT at this point, right? So, and then what I did is I had made all these notes and now I forgot what the notes were. I had all these like really smart prompts with ChatGPT, so I forgot. It was just another 40-year-old problem because I can't remember any names and I can't remember what my little friend told me what to say. No. So again, I started with ConnectWise, like I said, 1.5 years ago, and we had to shift the perception of the team itself. We had to shift their perception from focusing on the wrong details to just focusing on data, making data-driven decisions, letting certain experts take over, food and beverage or different experiential things. Let them take that over and let's focus on the data. So we've really overcome that as a team and as a marketing team. Again, shifting certain functions to the right resources has been able to help us talk better about the data of our events and make better decisions as a team. Where I find the biggest challenge is that we're planning for 4, at times 5 generations of people, and sometimes the people that we're reporting into is this generation, the older generation, I guess, right, is an older generation, and we're planning events for the bottom 2 generations, and they're making decisions that don't line up to these 2. And it's continuing to be a challenge because even the way I work, where I'm very comfortable working with ChatGPT, bringing that into how I'm organizing things, there's a certain layer that just doesn't want to modernize the way things need to be modernized, and it just continues to be a challenge. And the only thing that we can continue to do to overcome it is to train our teams how to get the right data and then how to tell the stories about the data. Even if it's the color of the stage, tell a story. It's blue because our main color at the company is blue. We're not changing it to yellow because you look better in the light, right? That's telling a story. So I think that's been a big challenge for the year to overcome, and also training myself how to tell those stories, because I've never had to fight with so many generations before, And I have one more story because I love it. But I have one more story, and it was eye-opening because I had my son recently at an event, and he was closer in age to the youngest person on my team than that person on my team was to me. And I'm listening to the 2 of them talk about what their priorities are, and that's a data point. And that's a data point I need to bring back to this generation, right? So make sure you're picking up on all of that and looking at what those people need, because we can't make decisions anymore based on what people want or they think how things used to work. It's not true. We can prove you wrong with one little app on my phone. And we don't want to hurt their feelings, but we can't make decisions based on that for events anymore. And that's been a big challenge to overcome, is just learning how to tell that story.
And you raised such a great point on the 5 different generations, and we heard that so many people here are focused on the attendee experience, which attendees, and that's where I think things like personalization, it's a buzzword, but it's so key because you do have to understand all of your different segments of your attendees, even if it's just from a generational standpoint, because everybody's going to have such a different experience.
And it's expensive.
It is.
It's expensive to figure out. I mean, we had 5 heads today talking about segmentation for events, and 5 expensive people, right, trying to figure that out. But there's certain generations that aren't thinking about that personalization because they just want what they want. They want to go to conferences how they want to go. And again, that's a challenge we have to overcome, is that.
And then on the other side of the spectrum is the younger generation who doesn't even understand that thinking about personalization is a thing because they are so used to everything in their life being AI operated to just show them exactly what they want every time they open any app on their phone. They don't know what it's like to go find a different experience or find their experience. It's just served up to them. We could go off on this tangent. It's a whole different panel. I know there are plenty of personalization sessions happening throughout the week, so definitely we could go there. But Steve, let's go over to your biggest challenge that you've had in the past year, especially if there's any thread to pick up on this personalization attendee expectations.
Yeah, and probably our biggest challenge last year is our biggest challenge for many years in our organization is around member engagement and retention and participation. And so, some of the things we try to do around the segmentation, and especially around the generations too, because that's probably a similar problem in a lot of areas, a lot of organizations. We have 20-year-olds working right next to 60-year-olds, and some of our events bring all of those demographics together. And what we found over the years is we kind of segmented those out and give them opportunities to be in situations or in spaces with folks that are kind of in similar areas in terms of we started a new teacher, we call it New Educator Weekend. So it's a conference just for new educators versus conferences where we have around leadership conferences, which are for more seasoned or more educators have been around for a while too. But then there's also events where they all come together too. And so those are some of the challenges to have the learnings be effective for those that have different learning styles and different views and different approaches and just different views on how the organization should run and should handle some of those challenges that they face too. So I think around the engagement piece is just what we found is giving members an opportunity to participate at events, have the mixers and the social events there, but also just have opportunities for them to get to know or to interact with the speakers or the professionals or the experts that we bring in as well has been helpful too. And those are around lunchtimes or different events. And I think that what we've seen is by trying to raise them up and give them opportunities within the organization, we get greater participation from them and more involvement with them at the state level, but also back at their local level where they work.
All right, Miranda, I'm going to turn the question to you now. What's been your biggest challenge?
I'll stop whining about ROI because I know that there's more to an event than ROI. I think for our planners, it's been an increase of volume, increase of expectations. We did do a restructure of the team last year. So, just kind of like coming up to speed on the processes and workflows of how the team works, especially in the other regions. There's a lot of cultural differences, especially in EMEA and Asia. So I think globalizing the team has been a challenge, but our team is great. Everyone is very actively engaged and they're very agile, and they've been really receptive to the changes. And then on top of that, I think just doing more with less. That's just kind of how it is right now.
It is, always.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we have one more question. I see you've been submitting questions in the app, so thank you. We're definitely going to make sure we get to a few of those. Through all the challenges, structure, executives, what are you most proud of with your program so far this year? And Amanda, you alluded to a year in having some pride in some of the stuff you've accomplished. I'm going to go to you first since you've already.
You let me start?
Yeah.
Well, I'm proud of my team. They're all here. We're all here, yeah. And I think the adoption of the shift of taking on a program that had a lot of history to it, of doing things one way and really shifting it to be a more data-driven team. I'm really proud of that because I always kind of talked about it. And then during COVID, I think most of us here during COVID, we had to take on different tasks and different jobs that we weren't necessarily used to and kind of fell out of things. And it was really fun to get back into a corporate environment and take a team and put some of these standard best practices, back on the table. So I'm really proud of how far we've come in a year and a half. It's been a year and a half, it wasn't just a year. So I'm really proud of that. And I think I'm really proud that I finally convinced my husband to get a dog this year as well. And that has been incorporated into taking some of my stress off of me from all the events that we plan.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to you. Congratulations to the ConnectWise team as well. Yeah. I know you guys have done a lot this year. Miranda, what are you most proud of right now?
I echo Amanda. The team is just, we have an incredible team. Maybe second most incredible, but we do have. I know they're all staring at me. But our team is great. We have a small but mighty team. Everyone has just so many years of experience, and I have never seen or heard of any of them just completely losing it, or because this is a stressful job. Event planning is no joke. So everyone comes to work with a smile on their face, and we're all in the trenches together, and we have our moments where we have to blow off some steam, but everyone is great. I'm really happy with the team we have.
I love that. Steve, how about you?
Well, I'll echo that too. Just super proud and thankful for my team that we have at California Teachers.
Great bosses and leaders up here.
I know.
Taking their team first. Everybody wants to work for these.
It is great, and thank you for mentioning your teams too. It's really. When I started in this role, and it's been a little bit, but we had, I think, 7 people on the team, and we did 7 events throughout the year. And now we have 8 people on the team, and we do about 26 events. And so no growth in people, but really just having the right mix of people. The team's evolved over the years, and people have come and gone, and the team that we have now is just fantastic. And so I think some of the things that we've found that we've been successful with is using the technology that we've started using Cvent, and it's probably been 7 or 8 years with Cvent, and that just really opened up a lot of doors for us, just in terms of automating some things and all the things that you've seen here too. But our team has just really taken to that also, and is always finding new things with that to integrate and to use in the events. And I think one of the things that we've been really proud about in our organization is really not being a side light to the organization or an afterthought to the organization. So conferences and events over the years have become a priority within our organization too. But I think we've been able to align ourselves and the type of events that we have with the priorities of our organization. A few years ago, we started a new educator weekend for new teachers. It's really important to get new teachers in the pipeline. And to keep them in the pipeline, we find that after 5 years, about 50% of the teachers leave the profession altogether. And so what we found is those that are going to our new teacher workshops, our new teacher conferences, are staying longer in the profession. They're staying longer in the organization as well. We just got approval from our board to do a women's leadership conference. And so 75% of our members are women. And we're super proud that we've been trying to get that for a few years, and the board just approved that to do a women's leadership conference. So we're going to start that one from scratch, and we're really excited about that. So I think just being able to align with the goals of the organization has really led to a lot of good wins for us.
So I've decided if I'm going to be a teacher, I'm coming to California because of the support that you guys clearly provide to the teachers in California. So thank you for that. And I know especially associations, nonprofits have an even larger challenge of contributing to a larger good. So love that that's something you guys are so proud of as well. We have a lot of really great questions that have been submitted. So we're going to rapid fire this a little bit. I'm going to direct these one to each of you, but if each of you has a thought you want to chime in on, please do. But first question directly for Miranda that we had was, how is your task force approaching a starting place for putting a framework in? How is your task force approaching a starting place for putting a framework in place to measure ROI on events? Are you working with a consultant? Are you turning? How are you guys starting?
Great question. We have actually been kind of mulling around the idea of measuring ROI for about a year now, and our data analysis team has been working actively with our marketing operations side. And what we've done is taken a very elementary approach of, collecting attendee data, building out a campaign in Salesforce or Eloqua, one of those, and then putting in attendee data, tracking that attendee's journey, and then that data gets turned over into an Eloqua or a Salesforce, and then it's handed over. It's really elementary and doesn't always work for each event. Like each event can either be like getting lead generation, or it could be client engagement or client hospitality where they're already a current client. So there's just so many different ways to approach it. I think that is also one of our biggest challenges is like, okay, where do we start? Yep. And I think we have, for certain events, we do have a good handle on it, but it's just not anything that we can consistently roll out for all of our events and all of our business lines. So I would love to work with a consultant. So,
okay. Amanda, do you guys have a framework?
We do for our industry conferences. We have a framework that we've been following for the last 3 events, which I can show you. And then our field events and our trade shows, it's been evolving a bit, but there is a framework in place.
I think Amanda and I are going to become really good friends.
Yeah.
We do have a framework at Cvent as well, and one of the things that I heard you say that you're focused on is kind of the next evolution that we're trying to get to is better definition of the purpose of the event, and really making sure that we've not only defined the tiers of our events, but what is the business outcome? Because when you look at our event frame, our attribution model that we have in place today, which is very much developed by our marketing operations team and aligned to the ROI framework that we have for all of our marketing programs, and then tweaked for events and for each of our channels.
I think a misnomer is that there has to be a standard method to doing it. And I think that's the wrong approach. And so I think that's definitely something to keep in mind.
And just start somewhere. You can evolve it over time. Like every attribution framework is going to evolve, but you definitely, even if you're not just trying to get to a full attribution framework, have that definition of what is the event outcome.
Exactly.
Which events are supposed to be lead generating events, which events are supposed to be brand activation events, which events are supposed to be advocacy events, which ones are customer retention events. And even if you just start there, you're going to get a step in the right direction. Okay, I was going to rapid fire, and there we go, too long on the first question. We are not going to get to all of these, so we will definitely take all these questions and send them out, because there are some really good ones in here. So I want to get everybody answers. Another question, and I'm going to piggyback this on the conversation we've been having, is how did you determine what would be tier 1 versus the self-service tier 2 and tier 3 events?
Scope, it really came down to the size of the event, the cost of the event, and then also executive leadership presence. That was also a big one, because we have small events that big clients come to that a lot of deals get closed at, and then even though they're small events, 50 people, they're still considered tier 1 events. So it really is subjective. There's not a cookie cutter way of doing it.
Again, it's a start somewhere. Start somewhere and it can change.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. What is the most effective way you have found to communicate event ROI to a C-suite not necessarily versed in events? And actually, Steve, I'm really curious, because I'm sure you have a lot of executives and board members that really aren't versed in events. So how do you guys communicate?
Yeah, we really would communicate based off of the budget. So just as easy numbers for them to see. There's budgeted amounts and then there's actuals. So when they want to get into the dollars, those are the ones we really would focus on too. But what's more important to them, I think, is the impact that it's having on the attendees. And so we would tell the story also with looking at the feedback from attendees and take some of the highlights of that and some of the lessons learned and some of the challenges in that to share that with the leaders, because those are the folks, again, that they're elected. And so they want to hear what their people, what the constituency are thinking, what they're feeling, what they're learning. And so, the budget's important, but also the other side is really important to them as well.
And Amanda, you're so focused on data. So how are you communicating that data?
To our C-suite? Yeah. It's shifted a couple of times, but I think the best way to be consistent is we have a QBR deck that we're using for our, like I said, for our proprietary events. And we've consistently used the same format. I'm actually just populating one now for the event we had last week. And then I don't know, it changes a bit on who brings it to them, but the format is consistent. And it's really focused on data and metrics and growth year over year with a couple like fun quotes spliced in, and I can show anybody who would like to see it. But I think the key is a consistent way of showing the numbers, because the person who presents it does change. You know, so that's just something to take into account. Like everybody should be able to be versed in the story they're going to tell about the numbers. I think just using that consistent table or being trained on the Power BI dashboards is the best way to overcome that.
Like that. All right, I think we can squeeze in one more question. What are some examples of things you're doing to personalize the attendee experience?
Well, we're at this Cvent conference training on the AI features. First of all, I mean, I think. I don't have a right answer for this one. It's something that we're constantly thinking about. I mean, personalization is by track, you know, by your job function, you know, go here, go there. So we are doing some of the basic level personalization, but in the next 6 months, we're going to be picking apart our data, picking apart what we've done in the past, and whether we can use the Cvent AI features that we just saw, or using some of these other ChatGPT features to make sure our categories are set up correctly for personalization. Personalization 6 months ago has changed to what personalization is going to look like in the next 6 months. So I don't have an answer of what I have been doing, because right now I'm focused on what I need to do to prep for November. And I think that a lot of the things that we're seeing and the things that we can do with AI, I would recommend to anybody in this room is pulling what they've done for the last 2 years and figuring out what are the trends that they can pull out of that data. How does it relate to personalization? I think that everybody should be leaving that conference thinking about doing that, because my head is spinning in some of the ways that we're going to be setting that up. But yeah, look at the puppy yoga here. Everybody's going, right? So you know that stuff. Everybody, we need to be adding those basic levels of personalization and wellness. But in terms of the trends by job function or what's in it for you at the events, I think everybody should be re-looking at that right now based on the data that they have.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things about personalization is to first decide what are the ways that personalization makes sense for your audience. You kind of alluded to it, Amanda. There are so many ways you can slice and dice. It starts with first understanding your attendees and what's going to impact them the most from a personalization standpoint. And that's going to depend on every individual group. All right, any other thoughts on that before we wrap?
I'd say just one thing on that is that we try to kind of pre-personalize it a little bit. We know, because we're a membership organization, we know a lot about our members. And so based on the event or the conference, that we're able to segment that out to let them know what they're going to get out of that before they come to it. So try to set the expectations with them and prepare them for coming and help them to be ready for the experience that they're going to have at the event. So when they get to the event, they can make the most out of it when they get there.
I like that. That's awesome. All right, we are right on time. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Please don't forget to take the session feedback survey. Those in the room, go to your app. Those who had joined us online, navigate to that survey. We really do appreciate you joining us. For the questions we didn't get to, we'll try to send out a couple answers. And for everybody who's here on site, please join us at the Innovation Pavilion Happy Hour or tonight at the Disco Rodeo event at the Creamery, and find us. We'd love to continue this conversation. Thank you so much.